Hello, you're listening to the Mindset of Podcasting. In this podcast, we talk about all things podcasting, from setting it up, getting over those fears, and growing your podcast. I'm your host, Jillian, CEO of Jillian Grover Podcast Solutions. I've been helping women entrepreneurs start, manage, and grow their podcasts since 2020. Listen in as I give you all the tips and tricks I know about successfully launching and managing your podcasts. Let's go chat. Welcome back to the Mindset of Podcasting. I'm so glad you're back this week. This week, we're going to be talking about how your podcast is actually a marketing tool and not a way to make passive income. So this is one of the things that gets me when I get on calls with people who want to start a podcast. Like, yeah, I want to make more money in my business. Great. Yes, a podcast can help you do that. But it's like anything else. It takes time to build up. You are going to start with your podcast being just another marketing tool to help bring more awareness to you and your products and services and what you do. So the main goal with your podcast is to build that know, like, and trust factor. You want people to get to know you so they start to like you, so that they start to trust you when you come out with a podcast episode every single week. So that is what your first goal should be, is building that awareness and that relationship between you and your listeners. Because I have to tell you, when I first started as a podcast manager, I was working with anybody and everybody just because I needed to make some money. And the people who I worked with who were only focused on how do I get sponsors? How do I get ads? How do I make more money with my podcast? Ended up quitting their podcast. They don't podcast anymore because they were so focused on making money instead of giving value and building the relationship. So that is what I tell my clients now when we start working together. I'm like, we are going to give as much value as possible. And then we're going to lead people to your products and services. So I want you to start thinking of your podcast as a marketing tool now, just like social media, just like Instagram and TikTok and all those other places. This is another platform for you to give your listeners more value. So your first goal is to lead people to either your freebie or your email list. And then from there, you can sell to them. So this is kind of how the funnel works for a podcast. You are going to promote your podcast on social media. So pick a social media platform that you use, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whichever one you use. You are going to promote it on there, either through reels or graphics, or just talking about it, or just doing a post about it. Then people are going to see that on social media, and that is going to drive them to your podcast where they are going to listen. Once they listen, that is when you are going to do a call to action to get them on your email list. This is usually through a freebie that you have, a free offer, whether it's a PDA, a video, a course, whatever your free offer is, that is going to lead them to your email list. Then when they're on your email list is where you nurture them and you get them to buy your products and services and eventually sell to them. I'm not an email marketer, so I'm not going to get all into that, but an amazing email marketer is Hillary Krieger. You can follow her on Instagram. She gives amazing tips on doing email marketing. So we're going to start social media, podcast, email list, selling. Now, you can sell on your podcast and people can listen to your podcast and go straight to buying from you. I know I've done that through a podcast. I hired a coach through a podcast I listened to. So you are able to do that also. So just always have a call to action in all your podcast episodes, which is actually my first tip for ways to market your podcast. You're going to have a call to action in every episode. So usually I tell people to either say this at the beginning or in the middle of the episode, because if you put it in your outro, usually when that outro music starts, people turn off the episode. Like I know I do. So I would really say this either in your intro or somewhere in the middle of your episode. Give them a call to action. Say, hey, I have this freebie. Go to the link in my show notes, download it. So the link in the show notes is going to lead for them to sign up for your email list where they will get the freebie emailed to them. Or it could be a call to action to one of your products or services that you're doing. You have the link to your website in there. My second way for you to market your podcast is to promote your podcast on social media and not just on the day it comes out. Don't just do it once and expect a ton of people to come to your podcast. Do it multiple times. Talk about it in your stories. Do a post, do a quote graphic, do a reel, whatever you can do. Put it out there on social media. And I always say this, but if you think you are talking about your podcast too much, talk about it a little more, because not everybody's going to see all of your content. So they might just hear it the one time that you talk about it. So talk about it, promote it, tell people about it, and make sure that there is a link to your podcast in your bio on whatever social media platform you are promoting it on. And the third way to market your podcast is to put it on your website. Put a tab that says podcast on your website and put your episodes on there. The easy way to do this is go to Podpage and you can set up a free podcast website where you just put in your RSS feed and then it pulls all the episodes. And then you can just link the tab on your website that says podcast directly to that. So one way to do that, if that was confusing, reach out to me. I can help you with that. But put a link to it on your podcast. But the thing is, you have to talk about it. You have to tell people about your podcast, that you have a podcast. Nobody is just going to know. Very, very rarely do people go into a podcast app and search for a specific topic. Now, it does happen. I'm not saying it never happens. It does happen. But most of the time, they're going in their podcast app because they heard about a podcast on social media. So that is always where you want to start. You always want to start with social media. Now, I do have a bonus tip for you if you want to make a little bit of money on your podcast. And I do mean a little bit. I tell all my clients to do this. If you have an affiliate link, make an ad for it. Make an ad for your affiliate link and put it in your episode. So to give you an example, I'm actually going to do an ad right now for you. So this is an example of an ad. You can take it, copy it, do whatever you want with it, but this is my ad. So I usually put this in the middle of my episode. So it says, I'm popping into the middle of this episode to tell you about the system that has changed how I do business. Are you tired of having 10 different systems to do everything? You have one to send contracts, one to invoice, one for email, and one for your scheduler. It can be overwhelming. Dubsado does all of these in one system. To learn all the features, go to themindsetpodcasting.com/sponsors. I use Dubsado to keep track of clients, schedule discovery calls, invoice clients, and lead generation. It's the all-in-one system that makes my life so much easier. If you are tired of going from one system to another, then check out Dubsado and see how it can make your life so much easier. Go to themindsetpodcasting.com/sponsors. You can take that as you want. I would say the web address in the ad if you can, because if they're listening, maybe they can just go straight there. For some reason, maybe they don't have access to the show notes, which I don't know why, but definitely make sure it's in the show notes. You can tell them to go to the show notes for the link also. But that's just an example. You can do that for all the affiliate links you have. Maybe once in a while, somebody will pop on there and purchase, and you'll get like I said, affiliate links are a tiny bit of money. But definitely if you have an Amazon storefront and you mention anything in your podcast episode, link that in your show notes. So that is a good way to make a tiny, tiny bit of money. And that's usually where my clients start, is we start with ads for affiliate links. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you are thinking of your podcast as a marketing tool and not a way to make like passive income, because it takes a while to grow, to get sponsors and other things, because you have to have a lot of downloads before sponsors will usually be willing to work with you. And I don't know a ton about sponsors. My clients who do have sponsors, they actually have an ads manager who's in charge of getting all of their sponsors for them. So like I said, it takes a lot. So work on growing your podcast, work on growing your downloads, and just marketing it and promoting it. So I hope this helped. Next week, I'm going to be reviewing the book You Are the Brand by Mike Kim and how it relates to branding your podcast.